The wait is finally over. The 6v6 test is here for the next 3 weeks, so get on it while you can. This video today is going to be 2 different segments, one live reaction to the balance patch and one first initial impressions discussion after about 3 hours of playing with a duo. Make sure you check the timestamps below if you're only interested in one part, but I do want to make it clear that these are first impressions. With a format change as big as this and a balance patch to go with it, we aren't really going to know everything right away, and it's going to take a lot of time for us to get there. Even at the end of this whole thing, it definitely won't tell the entire story. So while I'll be updating you in the future, do not take all of this as gospel yet. I'll give you a fair warning, we will have a bit of criticism towards it, but I did enjoy my time with it a lot, maybe just because I like Overwatch. At the end of the day, it's just exciting to talk about this and finally get our hands on it, and I'm really excited to see where they go in the future. So please enjoy the rest of this. This is going to be like, I don't know if I'm going to make this into a video or not, or this part of it, but I'm going to look through these patches. Like, I literally have not seen these just came out. So this is 6v6, blah, 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 blah. Experimental changes. To accommodate 6v6 format, multiple heroes receive balance changes that better suit their abilities in 6v6 format. These changes are only applied for this mode and are adjusted from the most recent hero balance from the December 10th patch. Base regular generation timer increased from 5 to 7. So that's when you health regen outside of combat, it'll take 7 seconds to kick in instead of 5. Okay. Roll passive. Knockback and critical damage reduction removed. So no knockback reduction, no critical damage reduction. Yes, good. No longer affects health, so no extra bonus health as well. Now only reduces ultimate charge generated by 25%. Okay, so less health, no reductions, and just ultimate charge less, which is okay. Oh god, we have a lot of changes here. Diva, health increased, armor reduced, so less armor overall. Weapon spread re-increased, so she's way less lethal. That's by a lot. Movement speed penalty increased from 30 to 40. Maximum duration reduced of defense matrix to 2. Boosters cooldown increased. Micro missile cooldown increased. I will say, obviously tank power needs to come down, but I am a little afraid that a lot of the new feel of these characters is going to go away. I think, like, you know, a couple of cooldown increases, that's fine, whatever. But like movement speed penalty and the weapon spread being decreased so much or increased so much, that might make Diva feel not as fun or interesting. I don't know. We'll have to see. It's kind of like my gut reaction. I'm a little afraid of. Doom is interesting. So base health increase. Okay, so he actually gets a like relative buff to his health. Cooldown for seismic slam increased. Power block duration decreased, cooldown increased, passive regen decreased. So he gets some extra health, but he gets less from his passive. Okay, he doesn't seem too terribly different here. So that's definitely a plus. And I don't think Doom was ever one of the most benefiting from the tank passives. So Doom is going to be like pretty much the same. Hazard's an interesting one, right? So he's going to keep the same like his health is just going to go down to regular, right, to open queue health. The spike guard duration decreased, reach charge time decreased, or increased rather. Jagged wall cooldown increased by a lot, and its health was also increased. I actually like that. I like having a lower cooldown, but like a big, like, it's not as overall sustaining, but when it's up, you have more of a window to be alive. So a lot of this is going to be like the cooldowns of specifically of defensive abilities are going to be like hit a lot, and then some of the offensive abilities are probably going to get hit a little less if they do. Junker Queen also got some more health relative to her open queue health right now. Yeah, cooldown for commanding shout increased by a lot, and her self-healing was decreased all the way down to 1. Not even like 1.5, 1.2. Wow, okay. We're gonna have to see how that goes. She'll probably be okay, obviously, if she has another tank, but Mauga, base armor reduced, base health increased, so he got, so he actually lost 25 net and replaced that armor with only 25 health as well, so he's actually down on his total. Overrun cooldown increase from 5 to 7. Remember that overrun is basically, what's it called? Another sustainability, if we're being real, because it's got unstoppable and damage reduction. I'm surprised to see that they did not remove any of that in this test. I'm surprised to see that they didn't remove some of the damage reduction or some of the unstoppable or anything like that. It is just straight up cooldown increased up only to 7. Stomp damage reduced, which is whatever. Cardiac overdrive allied lifesteal reduced from 50 to 30. Cooldown increased. So yeah, more defensive stuff. Maximum duration of cage fight reduced. Okay. Base armor reduced by, oh my god, by a lot. So she is, again, okay, so hold on. She's losing 75 armor, but she is gaining 100 health. So she's net in health, but I think in effective health, she's definitely down. Augmented fusion driver now has damage fall off again. The energy javelin max duration, what? Maximum duration reduced from 8 to 7 seconds of energy javelin. Oh, fortify, no longer immune to critical damage. Let's just do this in the live game. Excuse me, max energy javelin is confusing me. Maximum duration reduced from 8 to, is that just cooldown down from 8 to 7? Is that what they mean? I think there's something wrong here, but fortify, no longer immune to critical damage. So you actually can interact with Orisa in fortify. Her survivability is down because of the reduced armor. Okay, cool. Brahmatra base health increased from 250 to 375. Whoa, his base form was really weak, wasn't it? That's probably why. I don't think there's anything to, remember he's losing the tank health, you know, extra. He's going back to open queue health. Void barrier cooldown increased by a lot. Nemesis bonus armor reduced. I'm surprised Nemesis form cooldown didn't get hit, but bonus armor reduced from 300 to 200. So yeah. So he gained 125 health, but he lost 100 armor, basically. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So again, we're hitting more sustain on the tanks, right? Reinhardt, base health increased, base armor reduced. So just 75 health for armor. Now has the steadfast passive again, reducing knockback. Okay. Barrier health increase. Oh. Man, really? Sorry, I think barrier is one of the, it's just the worst, like, most uninteractive part of his kit, and I thought we were reducing sustainability, and I actually really don't like this. I think it should have stayed at, like, 15. Charge cooldown increased from 7 to 10 seconds, steering reduced. I don't think that's, again, that's game feel, right? Is this going to feel significantly worse because of the steering? Only has 1 fire strike, somewhat of a game field thing. Earth Shatter reduced distance. I think they should just do that on live. Don't at me. I hate Earth Shatter. I think it's a dumb ult. Yeah, I don't like. We changed Ryan. We made him more interesting. I think in Overwatch 2. I don't quite agree with going all the way back. They're going all the way back. You can cancel the charge, but I do think they're, I don't know, they're going back to like safe stuff, right? They're going back to like Overwatch 1, where there is game feel that we have from Overwatch 2 that I don't think is all inherently bad, that I don't want them to just like reverse everything, right? I don't want there to be, and of course that's not exactly what's happening, but yeah, I don't quite agree with this, to be honest. Base health increase from 600, so he'll have 650 HP instead of 600. Like he would in Overwatch 1. Okay. He's going back to secondary. So he's just getting like reverted, isn't he? Secondary fire, air burst projectile added. So he has secondary fire. Primary fire for large center projectiles removed. Primary, oh, okay, right. So they're just putting secondary fire. Primary fire pellets per shot increased from 16 to 25. Whoa, okay. Damage per pellet increased. Oh, he's gonna one-shot again. Critical damage multiplier. Oh my god, he's one-shotting again. They're just gonna let him do that. Hook, increase cooldown. Take a breather, default bind removed, or moved from secondary fire to ability 2. Maximum heal reduced. So, does he not have Pigpen? He doesn't have Pigpen, right? Maximum heal reduced. Okay. Damage reduction increased. Okay. Cooldown is now 8 seconds, no longer resource based. Yeah, so it's just reverted hog. Okay, listen, I don't think the hog rework is good either, but just going back to old, again, like, hog is a problem, and he was a problem still. I mean, his design does not get any better in 5v5 or 6v6. Maybe it gets a little more manageable, but I don't agree with this. Like, I don't agree with introducing basically just old hog, now with more health, by the way. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I will have to see how it actually plays with the new tanks and everything, but I don't quite understand why. Base shield health reduced. So he just lost 25 shields in the process. Recharge rate increased. Yeah, makes sense. Accretion damage reduced. Okay, I think it's perfectly fine. Sigma is basically the same. Not much there. Base health increased on Winston from 225 to 350. So he lost 50 armor and got 75 health in return. Tesla cannon no longer ignores armor damage. I think that should just exist, to be honest with you. I don't like that. Damage reduction in live. Secondary fire charge time increased from 0.85 to 1.1 second. So he can't use it as often. Secondary fire ammo increased again, so he can't use it as often, so it's not as good. Jump pack cooldown increased from what they just changed it to. Okay, barrier by 1 second more. And then of course less health in primal rage because we aren't. Okay, so Winston is pretty similar, just with the extra added Tesla cannon. Base shield health removed on wrecking ball. I feel like that's okay to keep. Like, I don't think that's anything game breaking. I don't know. I feel like that's just like nice quality of life for ball. But base health increased from 300 to 500. Base armor reduced. So he got a lot. What, am I reading this right? He's going to get less adaptive shields, right? No longer able to disperse shields to allies. Okay. Radius reduced by a lot. Over health gained reduced. Yeah, so that makes sense. That's why that's like that. Pile driver cooldown increased. Okay, so again, sustain. A lot of this, again, is sustain. A lot of sustain, right? Defensive stuff. Zarya base health increased from 175 to 225. Remember, she has shields. Particle barrier no longer shares a cooldown. Oh, I'm realizing now when I'm trying to be like, oh, it's Overwatch 1 health, but there's, like, when you add it up, it's more than that. It's because of all the health changes overall, I guess. Particle barrier no longer shares a cooldown with projected barrier. Right. So they're just basically revert, right? Although the projected barrier cooldown is still less. Wait, I'm just realizing. Cooldown reduced from 11 to 10, so she's actually going to be using bubbles more often. The bubbles themselves are just worse. We'll have to see. I remember Zarya was, like, not quite so good by the end of Overwatch 1, so maybe that's fine. Damage roll passive. Healing reduction decreased from 25 to 15. No longer has reduced effectiveness for tank heroes. Okay, so this is the interesting thing, right? How is 6v6 going to work with healing reduction? This is basically like a band-aid solution to trying hard to, like, not being able to get sustain out of there. I think you should hit heroes individually instead of adding a damage roll passive like this, but you know, we'll have to see how that works. Bob health increased from 1,000 to 12,000. Why? Okay, sure. Is he a tank still? Is he still count as a tank? No way, right? I guess if he counts as a tank, he doesn't get the knockback resistance or damage reduction. There's really nothing. There's no reason for him to, like, he doesn't get anything from counting as a tank. So that's probably what it is. Fan the hammer. Secondary fire damage increased by a little bit to kind of get rid of tanks, I suppose, a little more effectively. Focusing beam damage multiplier for low health targets increased from 3.5 to 4. So that's no longer has max health for copy target. Oh, so duplicate. Now you just get the full health again. I don't know if I agree with that. In fact, I think that was like a good change Overwatch 2 made, regardless of format. Damage multiplier for low health targets increased from 3.5 to 4. So she's going to do more damage. She's going to be able to kill. Not a lot of tanks can really prevent focusing beam. So she's going to be able to kill squishies way more effectively. Keep an eye on that one. Keep an eye on Echo here. I think that's a big thing. Hanzo can fire more often. Okay. Mei, wall health increased. I think that's perfectly fine. Soldier gets more damage, which is, again, probably fine. Turret gets more damage, I guess, because there's more people to destroy it more effectively. Fall off range increase, so Tracer is more effective at longer ranges. And Widow... Really? What? Why? Was she super weak in the playtest? That's fine, man. That's okay. I don't care. Okay. Whatever, I guess. What, she was... By the end of Overwatch 2, she was 175, right? Or by the end of Overwatch 1 and then into Overwatch 2. I don't agree with this, but we'll have to see how that plays out. Okay. Biotic grenade, biotic rifle, maximum ammo reduced. Cooldown for biotic grenade reduced. That... So she's less lethal, but her sustain / healing is better. No longer has reduced duration versus tanks for sleep, but sleep dart is less. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Ano's in a pretty good spot. Yes, she has the 2-tap on her damage still, so maybe the ammo reduction is good. Well, I guess let me back it up, right? Because less ammo in her clip means less consistent sustain. She has to reload more often, use grenade. That's probably fine. Never mind. I take it back. I think that's probably gonna be okay. Baptiste no longer heals twice as much for allies under 50% max health. I think that's part of the... I think that makes this ability even more thoughtless than it already was. Removing that, I don't like that. I think you can just retune it. Now it's just 50, and then healing over time increased from 40. Why? Sorry, excuse me. Why? We're trying to get rid of sustain. Why is regen burst healing so much over time? Really? This guy's gonna be an issue. Baptiste is gonna be an absolute problem in these tests. Like, back to, and his health, his drone health is more. Immo is gonna technically be on the field longer, more often. This is crazy. He's one of the characters that enabled those terrible comps that we hated from Overwatch 2. Why are we now buffing his healing, his sustain? I mean, 100 health over 5 seconds from 40? That's crazy. Is that not crazy? Okay, sure. We'll have to see how that ends up being, but Ilyari, so a new character, right? Solar rifle, max damage increased, min damage increased, cooldown reduced. Why? Sorry, it seems like overall characters are getting net sustain value, which doesn't. I guess the DPS passive is here, but like I don't want to just equal out, right? To even out. Okay, healing pylon, whatever. It's easier to break. Same thing with Torb. Okay, I'll give it that, right? Easier to break, needs to be buffed in some way. Probably don't want to buff the healing. Okay. I guess it doesn't, like, if you do your pylon in the right spot. Okay, I overreacted. It's fine. Juno, pulsar torpedoes, cooldown increased. Good, I think. That is fine. That's part of her sustain, right? Hyperwing maximum duration decreased. I think that's good. I think we need something like that in the live game, TBH. Maximum duration of orbital ray reduced. I think you need to actually hit the sustain of it, but sure. We'll have to see how Juno is when she's easily protected. She doesn't actually need a brig to play because she has 2 tanks. That might be interesting to see. She might be, you might be able to get away with like more like Kiriko, Ana, Bap, you know, that kind of stuff that it can't, like, or even like Zen, you know, easier. We'll have to see. Kiri, they have not changed a lot. Healing per projectile increased from, so she has more healing and she does it more often. I guess she's single target, but again, this is another like potential sustain thing that I don't understand. Did they feel like healing wasn't doing enough in these tests? I don't know. Oh god, man. Maximum heal increase from 80 to 90. Cooldown increase from 12 to 15. Okay, I don't really understand why. pedal platform, all the other breakables get to be less cooldown or more powerful. His is not. Maximum duration of Tree of Life reduced, cooldown increased. Cooldown of what? Oh, it's just copy and paste on accident. Okay, that's fine. I think that's totally fine. Zen has reduced ammo. That's okay. Harmony Orb, time to wear off when not in line of sight. That's good. I think that's more skillful anyways. No longer has a cooldown per target. Okay. I know a lot of people hate the cooldown per Discord target. I think it's a great change. I thought it was actually a really good way for Zen to be a lot more thoughtful with his Discords. And yes, we played with Zen for years where you didn't have to do that, but like, I don't know. I thought it was good. I thought it was like a good thing. A good skillful way to get Zenyatta back like in a healthier spot so you don't just hard perma the tank. This to me feels like they could have reduced its effectiveness, reduced its cooldown, but I don't know. I feel like I like that change. Like I thought that was a good change overall. The Zen cooldown, I'm pretty sure was 5 or 6 seconds. Yeah, I think like 3.5. That's probably like a decent way to do it because you'll have more targets anyways. You'll be swapping between. Time to fall off target while not in line of sight increased from 1.5 to 3. Okay, so they're both on 3 now. Snap kick. He gets to keep snap kick. He gets to keep snap kick. It just doesn't go as far and he doesn't get the melee damage increase. But he gets to keep it? Why? We're getting rid of this one, which I think was the much healthier change, and then we're keeping snap kick. Okay. Sure. Whoa! Jesus. Okay, well, let's just play some, I guess. What
are my thoughts? One, I've been a big proponent of 6v6. Like, I like the tank synergy. I think coming back to it, it reveals a lot of the old cracks that were in Overwatch 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it feels very much like there's like certain tank picks you're allowed to have. Like, you know, certain tanks just don't really work well together, which I think is much more punishing than when you have like you can have like a Ashe and a, I don't know, Genji, and you're like, okay, well, do they work well together? And it's like, I don't know, whatever.
Right.
But like, there's certain the tank synergy matters quite a bit. It feels like I like working with another tank, but I do feel like people view counter swapping in Overwatch 2 as a tank problem. I think what people will learn if there's 6v6 is that counter swapping is like everyone. Because if they have an Ana into your, I don't know, Queen Hazard, like you're just eating anti-nade every single fight. And it's like you either need to have a Kiriko or you have to swap someone to D.Va or Zarya.
Right.
Like it feels very... There is still counter swapping, it's just not as like literally direct one-to-one on a roll. And I think people feel like I don't feel like people like forgot that counter swapping existed in Overwatch 1. I don't know how everyone like forgot about that, but like that was a thing. Like people swapped. I don't know why everyone thinks that was invented for Overwatch 2, but like I don't know, the other roles, it's so hard in like a casual environment. I felt like healer felt worse to me. I think I would say DPS felt bad on what's that game mode called? Clash.
Right.
I think the new maps have done better. I think you will feel it the most on choke points. Because on Clash, like, our tanks would not walk in, and, like, that was like, wow, this fucking blows. Because, like, I can't... If I'm a DPS in 6v6, I can't, like, go solo flank to try and make space.
Yeah, right, there's not the space.
I can't do that rotation because I'll just get caught out by one of the tanks. So, like, it brings back the same issues. Do I like it more or less? I don't know.
I mean, well, you played it for an hour, like, it's not like...
Yeah, there's trade-offs. I think it's... My biggest concern is how many balance changes they felt like they needed to make 6v6 work. Because I kind of agreed with what they were saying, where it's like, I don't want the two game modes to feel like, I don't want to have to be like, ooh, in this game mode, my cooldown is 2 seconds shorter. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to have to keep track of all that mentally, and I think it will make the game worse for it. But I don't know that there's a clear winner between 5v5 and 6v6. So I don't know.
Yeah, right. That's gonna be the thing. Is like, I feel like that's where a lot of the,
like, I think the game suffers for having them both, but I don't know that like one is objectively better than the other.
I think that if they're gonna have both, they need to be close. They're not like health is one thing, right? I think having different health is easy enough to adjust to. The character still plays generally the same. Once you start getting into like the weeds of it, that's when, you know, like you start changing character kits, you start changing character interactions, you start changing, you know, just what the abilities do in general. That is when I think that is just not going to work.
I'm really surprised that they like basically completely reverted Reinhardt and Roadhog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't really understand why they did it either.
It's I think it's very much like, this is what they were in 6v6 when we knew it worked. You know, again, like, this is a 6v6 experiment, but it's also like a, hey guys, I know you like old Overwatch, you like 6v6. It is somewhat of a nostalgia blast at the end of the day too, and I think that is important to know.
Yeah, that's fair. I think changing the kits is a mistake.
I agree.
I don't like that they changed Ryan's kit and Roadhog's kit.
Like, there's things that I like. Like, obviously, I think Zarya going back to 1-1, like, that just makes, honestly, it makes counterplay against Zarya much more engaging. You know, because tracking bubbles is easier. I just like playing against Zarya, old Zarya. But that is, like, reasonable, because double bubble on a tank is just, like, too powerful, regardless of how much cooldown you put on it, right? So that is okay, but it's also like, yeah, some of these quality of life things that they've just like changed, or these interesting interactions that they've added, they just kind of removed, because that's not what they had in Overwatch 1. Like, you know, BAP regen burst is a really boring linear ability, and then they removed the low health threshold thing, which I thought was an interesting dynamic, if not, you know, still kind of boring. But
yeah, they removed, like, we were kind of memeing on it, but like they removed the adaptive shield disperse. Like, why?
What's the purpose, right? Does that make him too powerful in 6v6?
Busted in 6v6 with like no one used. I don't think I've ever seen that used in a game, let alone like you never see ball anyway.
Yeah,
so,
it's
like,
not even like it's not. It actually would be like kind of weaker in 6v6 in some regards too, because it disperses the shields to more people a lot of the time, so they're gonna get less shields overall. You know what I mean? So what is kind of the purpose? I also feel
like I really don't like them buffing barriers. People didn't like Overwatch 1 because we felt like we were constantly shooting a barrier, but like part of what we enjoyed Overwatch 2 was that they got rid of that, but like
it's really just Ryan's barrier
for 6v6, but they also like they upped Sigma's recharge rate.
I thought they lowered it. I thought they increased the charge.
No, experimental barrier recharge rate increased from 85 to 100%.
Oh my god! It
comes back faster.
Yeah, well, and then Mormatra got his shield. His shield is longer cooldown. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why. It felt like they were trying to hit the sustain more. But yeah, you're right. Barriers, which again, like, not even to say that barriers were the actual problem. You know, it's the sustain behind them that was really the issue. But the perceived problem was the barrier. And I don't know, like, that seems like a weird thing to change. And also, I guess, like, with
one match we played today against Ryan, I was like, fuck, I am tired of shooting this barrier. Like,
yeah, especially with tanks.
It did feel kind of unkillable.
Especially with tanks and the way that this game, there's less space on the map to work. How do you get around a Ryan shield while you take angles on him? Well, it's harder to do that and just running into the barrier. Well, guess what? The barrier has more health and it's harder to deal with in general. So it's such a weird, like, combination of things. There's something that, you know, I really want, like, if 6v6 were to be the mode, right? I want the feeling of, you know, the visceral feeling of tanking that Overwatch 2 introduced, right? I want that to stay, because I think Overwatch 1 had a problem where it had the Rivals problem to a lesser extent, where it feels like you're doing air on tank even when you aren't. But when you do the wrong thing, you really feel it, right? That I felt like made tank feel like the worst possible. Overwatch 2, I think when you're doing well, it feels like you're doing well. And now it's like too far in the it feels like you're doing well when you aren't doing well, right? Because tanks are so powerful. But like the early Overwatch 2, I felt was like a really good compromise. Like I like that. So if they can keep that feeling in this, that is okay. And so far, it hasn't. It feels good. You know what I mean? For the most part, like it still feels like it.
Think, well, that's the other thing is I feel like part of that like agency that made Overwatch 2 feel good is what they add. Like, I know I'm harping on Ryan, but literally that's what they added to his kit. Like, making his pin, upping the cooldown on it, and making it so you can't steer it. Like, why?
Right.
Like this is one of the. I think that's the. I don't know. I think the Ryan. It's not really a rework, but the Ryan retooling for Overwatch 2, I think, is like one of the most successful things they did.
Yeah.
Like that character feels like. It fulfills the fantasy so much more because in Overwatch 1, like you never pinned into the fight.
Right.
Like
right.
pin was like getting back to spawn and like Hail Mary kill. But like pinning in and like pinning in front of your support and shielding, like you literally feel like you're in the fucking cinematic. Like it feels so sick. But like taking that out and like making Ryan slower, I don't really understand because like 2 tanks naturally slows the game down, so why would we want to encourage that more?
Yeah, I also think what's really strange to me is that when they revert a lot of these characters to basically what they were in Overwatch 1, but then the new characters in Overwatch 2 are very much the same, you know, like they get to keep all of their tools, but a lot of the Overwatch 1 tanks, it's like Mauga gets to keep
We're like
damage.
punishing them for being in Overwatch 1.
Exactly, like Mauga gets to keep damage reduction.
1, he definitely would have taken something out of his kit.
Exactly,
like,
damage reduction.
No, you came in with all this stuff, so we're not changing it.
Yeah, he has everything except for like some cooldowns being reduced, and it's like, well, like what's the point, right? Like you're keeping the old Overwatch 2 designs and mixing them in with the Overwatch 1 designs, right? Like that feels like a weird amalgamation where it's like I actually did want to play Hazard and Mauga more and Queen more than old ass Reinhardt, you know, and you know, good lord, I'm not touching Roadhog, right?
Yeah, like you don't want. Why would you take away the fun parts of the kits when like they've already been like kit creeped by other heroes?
Exactly.
Like, you'd think they want to encourage new playstyles.
And then yeah, speaking of new playstyles, I mean we talked about it earlier, but like off tanks, like there are no real new off tanks, and if there are, why would you pick them over the old off tanks who are tuned back to them being off tanks, right? Like Diva, Sigma, and Zarya are like, you know, those are the off tanks. It's like when I think of all the Overwatch 2 characters, how they exist now in this mode, I don't see any of them as like functioning properly, you know? Like none of them are like actually going to be more worthwhile than a Diva or a Sigma or anything like that. So it's really going to be like if you play off tank, first off, if you don't play any off tanks, you're screwed, right? But if you play off tank, you get 3 options. And if you don't play off tank, you have, what, 9? You know what I mean? So that's like super role disparity in that department. And of course, just like Hazard could probably be played as an off tank. Doom could probably be played as an off tank. I think Mauga honestly could. But like, are any of them as effective as Diva Defense Matrix? As Zarya Bubble? Sig Shield? God, Sig Shield. With the recharge rate? Like, I don't know, man. It doesn't seem like a fully, even though there are a bunch of balance changes, it doesn't seem like a fully thought out experiment so far. Yeah. I mean, like it's day 1, but
to me, it like it kind of reminds me of like when they finally added the self-healing passive. I feel like it opened up so much design space for healers.
Mm-hmm.
Because like in Overwatch 1, you always had to have some sort of way to heal yourself. Like that was just required on a healer's kit.
Right.
But like now that's not as required. But like I feel like going to 2 tanks, if you want to see play, like you essentially have to have some like you need to either be able to contest high ground or like eat cooldowns. And like Diva can do both, which is why she's so good.
Right.
But like if you aren't able to do any of those, so like who's a good example? Like, Hazard can kind of contest high ground and stuff, but like he just folds over to anti-nade. So like you cannot play him in combination with Queen or Mauga, and it's like it almost makes the problems even worse of like the Overwatch 1 tank pairings, where like there are so, because they haven't had to be designing for like an off tank that needs to be able to contest space or like eat cooldowns, they haven't worked that into the kits to where it makes it feel even more necessary. Like, it felt so bad getting anti-nated and have, like, nothing to do about it, and you also have this smaller health pool, and then it's like, God, just what do I do?
Yeah. I mean, that's just because anti-nade should be an anti-reduction, or, like, a healing reduction. I just think that should happen regardless of format nowadays. I think complete anti is really strong. Is really hard to balance around. I mean, you're right. It's, like, one of those, like, super frustrating things.
It's also like, it makes Ana feel like absolutely feast or famine, because if there's not a tank that can eat all your cooldowns, holy shit, you are like the best character in the game.
Right.
Like you just absolutely control the flow of the fights. And then if there's a decent diva in your face, it's like, oh, my character is actually just worthless. Like, I'm super diveable, and neither of my cooldowns do anything because every 13 seconds diva looks at me.
Right.
It's like, how do you?
I mean, that's like that's where it's kind of weird, because with adding another character, and I think this is kind of the role lock, like, trapping, or like open queue trapping rather. It's that adding another character, adding technically more options, can sometimes limit what you're doing, right? It can sometimes make you feel. It can make it feel like it's too overbearing, right? Like the combination, like especially when you focus on the combinations being so powerful with tank synergy and trying to clear high ground, like the greater emphasis on all these things from Overwatch 1, having the right team comp becomes much more like, what's it called? It becomes much more like of a thing you have to be successful, right? Like,
yeah. I think being a generalist feels bad with two tanks.
Yeah, it definitely does, because you
really want to be leaning into one strategy.
Yeah, right. You have the other tank to make up for it. Like, that is the whole point, right? So you don't need to do everything, because at that point, are you doing anything? You know, it's the big conundrum. But yeah, that's a lot of tank talk. DPS wise, I thought they felt fine overall. Maybe I was just playing the good characters.
Outside of that one Clash one, I thought they felt fine for the most part. But honestly, like, Clash is just 2 CP, and like DPS didn't feel good on 2 CP either.
We didn't even really get to like a stall out, which I guess I'll talk about. I don't know. I played a lot of escort maps before you got in the stack, and
yeah, I don't know that
we couldn't finish the maps, man. Nobody could finish maps because there's just 6 people stalling. You have 6v6 sustain, right? They still didn't, like, you know, that's also another problem we'll probably get to. But like, yeah, you like couldn't. It felt like you couldn't finish maps. Like, it was so much harder. And again, like, that is the beauty, not the beauty, but like the advantage of 5v5. Part of it, it's like, yeah, you can. What's it called? You're more individual, right? In theory, you're more individual. In this game, like, when you have more combinations, you also have to emphasize the team play more. And on ladder, it just feels really bad, you know, right? Like, it's part of the thing. It's like, I think in organized play and like ranked play, or organized play rather, scrims, whatever, 6v6 does feel better a lot of the time. But when you're just like hopping into games, it just feels a lot more out of your control much more often.
Yeah, agreed.
But in terms of DPS,
I gotta hop.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
That's good. All right, I'll see you.
Peace out. All right, with him gone, I'm gonna continue as I go. So DPS I thought felt pretty good overall. It was fine. I think I only played like newer characters, right? Like, I played Echo because Echo was kind of busted. I want to see what was going on with that. But I played like Soj, and I played like Venture, and I wanted to see what was going on. I tried to play Genji. I'm just not very good at Genji. But yeah, DPS feel like it's fine. I mean, like, you can interact with tanks, which is, you know, I think that's more of like a health thing and role passive removed rather than like a 6v6 thing in general. But it's in the 6v6 test, so yes, you can interact with tanks. It feels good. You can get them off of you, but you don't have as much room to work. That's why Echo and like Sojourn and honestly Venture felt good, is because you have more room to work. You have like ways to get out of the fight. I think other characters are going to really suffer because they can't really walk as much, right? Like the hypermobility characters are going to be are going to be okay, whereas a lot of the other DPS are going to feel a lot more stifled in their effectiveness, which I think is a bit of an issue, right? Yeah, Venture I think feels good in particular if you can keep yourself up from like tanks, right? Like you can keep yourself surviving with a core. I think it's easier to survive with a core as Venture. But yeah, I think DPS in general still feel okay. I think the role that felt the worst was definitely supports. Not because they aren't good, far from it. I do think that Sustain, and in these games it's very chaotic and everything, and people aren't playing exactly the right stuff all the time. Sustain is going to be good. Everybody, I'm going to say it now. When people get back in the flow of it, when they get back in the swing of things, they are going to realize just how good, like a Brig Ana or a Baptiste. I think Baptiste is really, really good. They're going to realize just how much that does matter. And that is going to be a really big thing about how this thing sinks or swims, right? And again, like as you just play random games, you're not necessarily going to feel that. And that's going to be something like, it feels like Marvel Rivals right now. I think it's a really good comparison where people are like, dude, I love how everything dies. And I'm like, when I'm playing Marvel Rivals, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like the sustain is like really, really broken in that game. Like it's actually really hard to just kill things by yourself. Right now people are thinking like, oh, things are dying again. But it's like, once people get back in the groove of how 6v6 works, how Overwatch 1 kind of functioned, it's going to go back to that, especially since they buffed a lot of stuff. And maybe some characters like Lifeweaver are going to be like a lot more viable now. I'm not sure exactly, how it's going to like come across, but with the sustain being more emphasized, and there being more targets and more health overall on the field, you have to heal more. And I felt that a lot today. I was playing Bap, who can do both at the same time, but, I played Ilyari to try her out. Obviously, I wasn't healing that much on Ilyari. That's a little bit of a different thing. But, when I played Ana, it was a lot less openings for, obviously I would go for antis, but it was a lot less openings for, like, actually shooting. And I think that is a bit of an issue, right? I hadn't gotten the chance to play Kiriko, but from what I could tell from my Kiris, they could not flank. They could not do anything. They had to look. They had to watch their tank. They had to do everything like that, right? And even in Overwatch 2, Kiriko had a lot of times where she couldn't do a lot of damage. Like she was really more heal botting. There's a couple of metas where she was just trying to build her Kitsune up and stuff like that. But I think I felt it particularly here, that it really did feel like, supports more so have to heal than actually get to do stuff. And yeah, a lot of people think like, oh, it's healer, not support, or it's what healer. It's a healer, right? Not a support in particular, but it is fun to do damage. It is fun to interact with every character on the field and not just play the I heal my tank and run away game. And I really don't want that to be what happens with supports. And I don't think that's how it has to happen, right? Let me be clear. I think that's more of a sustain issue. I think it's more of the balance issue with this test. At least that's what I can think, right? But it's just, it does concern me a little. And I think I'll wrap it up a little close to here, is that initially it feels like they are a little too close to the past, right? I think they're holding it a little too close to how Overwatch 1 felt at the end, when you do have to remember that there are problems with Overwatch 1. And I think even a lot of 6v6 enthusiasts will agree with you, right? Like that is the thing, especially like if you watch Semito or something, he will be the first to tell you that like sustain was a big problem. There were issues with 6v6. And I feel like a lot of this test kind of reintroduces those when I don't think they necessarily had to. And I think that's what I'm like, again, first impressions. I'm going to be playing this a lot over the coming weeks. We'll be testing this out, but first impressions is a little concerning about the direction they've taken this, and maybe they will have a balance patch. But for right now, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to be. Maybe I don't know. I guess that's kind of where I'm at headspace wise. First impressions. I don't want to go into every single thing I touch about Tom for a while. But yeah, I'd be curious if they added a ranked light playlist to this. Yeah, so that's the thing. I think if they did a tournament, like if they announced a tournament on the 6v6 patch and had people like actually like a flash ops tournament, had actually people trying to optimize it and to see, we get a much better picture of like what a meta would end up being, right? I think that's like something that I would really want to see from this going forward. But at this point, you know, they can't plan that, right? So next time, if they run another 6v6 test later, I would like to see that, right? Kind of like with the Rivals tourney. Yeah, exactly. I think having tournaments like frequently shows a lot of like meta much more often, right? Because again, 3 weeks, people are just trying out all this stuff. There's a lot to test here. We're not going to get the full picture. We're just going to get like kind of first impressions, even after 3 weeks. So yeah, that is something that I think. So I think I'm going to end it there. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to see more and leave a comment down below. What are your initial reactions to this test as well? Please like the video while you're at it. And also, I stream live like this was at twitch.tv/LaneHemingway. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays are my days when I am live. Get in on those discussions when they happen. Also, feel free to join my Discord and leave me a hot take about 6v6 in the respective channel. I'd love to hear back from you guys. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and please have a good day.